Think about the first few things you did this morning. You woke up, opened your eyes, and the world came into view without effort. The room sharpened. You recognized familiar shapes. Maybe you glanced at the clock, looked at your phone, or watched the morning light come through the curtains. You may have looked out the window and noticed a passing car, a tree moving in the breeze, or the color of the sky. Now imagine that same experience changing little by little. Not suddenly, not all at once, just a quiet, steady fading over time. Words becoming a little harder to read. Faces across the room losing definition. Night driving feeling more stressful than it used to. Colors seeming slightly less vivid. The small daily freedoms that depend on clear vision reading, recognizing loved ones, moving through the world with confidence starting to narrow. What many people never hear is this. Age-related vision decline is not just about getting older or wearing out your eyes. In many cases, it is also deeply connected to nutrition. The retina, the light-sensitive tissue at the back of the eye, has one of the highest energy demands in the entire body. It works constantly. It also uses up antioxidants at an extraordinary rate, and as the body ages, especially after 60, it becomes less efficient at delivering the protective nutrients the eyes depend on. That means what you eat on a regular basis can influence how well your eyes hold up over time. Today, we're going to walk through 7 fruits that stand out in the research for supporting aging eyes. Some of them are familiar, some are overlooked, and the final one may surprise you, because most people do not think of it as an eye health food at all, yet it has one of the most impressive nutritional profiles for visual protection. Stay with me through all 7, because each fruit supports the eye in a slightly different way, and together they create a much clearer picture of what your eyes truly need. And just to be clear from the beginning, this is not a replacement for medical care, eye exams, or treatment. It's an additional layer of support. Nutrition does not replace a specialist, but it does give your body more of the raw material it needs to protect the tissues that matter. Before we get into the fruits themselves, there is one idea you need to understand first. Because if you skip this part, the list can sound like just another collection of healthy foods. These are not just healthy foods. They deliver specific compounds to a specific tissue that faces specific threats as we get older. Here is the framework. After 60, 3 major changes tend to affect the eyes. The first is oxidative stress in the macula. The macula is the small central part of the retina responsible for sharp, detailed vision. It helps you read, recognize faces, and see fine details. Over the years, exposure to light creates oxidative damage inside this tissue. In a younger eye, antioxidant protection is stronger. Over time, those defenses thin out. Damage accumulates, and the tissue that gives you your clearest vision becomes more vulnerable. The second change is reduced circulation. The retina depends on tiny blood vessels to deliver oxygen and nutrients. But aging affects those vessels the same way it affects circulation elsewhere in the body. When blood flow becomes less efficient, the eye receives less support for repair and maintenance. That matters because much of the eye's restorative work happens while you sleep. The third is something most people rarely hear about: glycation. This is the process by which excess sugar binds to proteins in the body and damages them over time. In the lens of the eye, glycation contributes to stiffness and clouding. That is one of the major pathways behind cataract formation. And importantly, the rate of that damage is influenced not only by blood sugar, but also by the protective compounds present in the diet. So when you put those 3 together, oxidative stress, weaker circulation, and glycation, you begin to understand why vision can slowly change with age, even when nothing dramatic happens overnight. A person who reads comfortably at 65 may notice by 72 that reading is less effortless. Night vision is slower to adjust. Fine print requires better lighting. The change feels gradual, because it is gradual. But gradual does not mean untouchable. Think back 5 or 10 years. Maybe there was a time when menus in dim restaurants were no problem. Maybe reading your phone didn't require extending your arm. Maybe driving after sunset felt normal instead of slightly tense. Most people describe vision changes as subtle at first. Not a crisis, just a growing sense that the eyes need more help than they used to. That experience is often accepted as just aging. And yes, aging is part of it. But there is another part people overlook: years of nutritional input. The eye is not separate from the rest of the body. It is fed by the same bloodstream, protected by the same antioxidants, and affected by the same deficiencies. That matters because nutrition is one of the few things we can still influence. And the science here is not fringe science. It is not vague wellness advice. It is mainstream nutritional and ophthalmologic research. We know a great deal about which compounds support which structures in the eye. We know that lutein and zeaxanthin concentrate in the macula. We know vitamin C is heavily concentrated in the lens. We know anthocyanins support blood flow and help with visual fatigue. We know carotenoids, such as lycopene and beta-cryptoxanthin, have protective roles in aging ocular tissue. The issue is not a lack of information in the research world. The issue is that most people were simply never told. Now let's make this practical. The retina works like an incredibly active sensor. Every moment you are awake, it is converting light into electrical signals. That process creates byproducts like exhaust from an engine. To prevent those byproducts from harming delicate tissue, the eye depends on antioxidants. Two of the best known are lutein and zeaxanthin. These pigments accumulate in the macula and act almost like internal sunglasses. They help filter blue light and reduce oxidative stress before it damages the cells underneath. The body cannot make these compounds on its own. They must come from food. Then there is vitamin C, which is found in very high concentration in the lens. It helps protect lens proteins from oxidation and glycation. When vitamin C intake is low, or when absorption becomes less efficient with age, that protective buffer weakens. Add anthocyanins, the pigments that give dark berries their blue, purple, and red colors. These compounds support retinal blood flow and may help protect photoreceptors. Then add lycopene, which has been associated with protection against oxidative lens damage. Then beta-cryptoxanthin, which can be converted into vitamin A, essential for visual function especially in low light. These are not random nutrients. They are directly relevant to how the eye ages. So with that foundation in place, let's go through the 7 fruits, starting with supportive choices and ending with the ones that may deserve a more regular place in your routine. The first fruit is kiwi. Most people think of kiwi as simply a vitamin C fruit, and that is true. But for eye health, kiwi does more than that. It provides a strong dose of vitamin C while also offering lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 of the most important carotenoids for the macula. That combination matters. Vitamin C helps protect the lens from oxidation. Lutein and zeaxanthin support the central retina. In one small package, kiwi supports 2 separate structures of the eye. Another advantage is practicality. Some foods that contain lutein are not eaten consistently by many older adults. Kiwi is simple, easy to portion, and often more enjoyable to eat regularly. It also pairs well with foods that improve carotenoid absorption, such as yogurt or a small handful of nuts. A useful habit is to eat 1 or 2 kiwis in the evening, either on their own or sliced into yogurt. When done consistently, the goal is not an overnight transformation. The goal is to build those protective compounds into the tissues over time. The mistake many people make is eating kiwi once in a while and assuming that is enough. Lutein and zeaxanthin work best when intake is steady. These nutrients build up gradually. The eye benefits from consistency more than occasional bursts. The second fruit is watermelon. Watermelon is often dismissed as mostly water and sugar, but nutritionally that description misses something important. Watermelon is one of the richest dietary sources of lycopene, and in many cases the lycopene is highly absorbable. Lycopene is especially relevant to the lens. Unlike many tissues in the body, the inner cells of the lens are not replaced over time. That means oxidative damage can accumulate for decades. Once lens proteins are damaged, they do not simply get swapped out. Protection matters. Lycopene helps neutralize the kind of oxidative stress that contributes to lens clouding. That is why it is often discussed in relation to cataract risk. A practical serving is a bowl of fresh watermelon, ideally paired with a small fat source like a few almonds or walnuts to improve absorption of the carotenoids. The same idea applies here. The benefit comes from regular intake, not just summertime snacking once in a while. If blood sugar is a concern, portion size matters. People with diabetes or glucose concerns should always consider their broader dietary context and discuss changes with their healthcare provider. But in moderate amounts, watermelon can be a useful part of a vision-supportive diet. The third fruit is black currants. In many places, black currants are not common in regular supermarkets. And that is unfortunate, because they are one of the most concentrated fruit sources of anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are important for the eyes because they help protect retinal cells and may support circulation in the tiny blood vessels that feed them. They are also associated with support for dark adaptation, the eye's ability to adjust when moving from bright environments into dimmer ones. That matters more than many people realize. One of the first vision complaints that shows up with age is not always blur. Sometimes it is slower adjustment. Entering a darker room takes longer. Evening driving feels harder. Visual contrast seems weaker. Black currants may help support that part of visual performance because of how rich they are in deep plant pigments. If fresh black currants are hard to find, frozen versions or unsweetened juice can be more realistic. A small diluted serving of pure black currant juice in the evening can be a practical option. If choosing juice, unsweetened is key. The common mistake is assuming all dark berries are interchangeable. They are not. Many berries are beneficial, but black currants are especially concentrated. That brings us to fruit number 4, wild blueberries. Wild blueberries deserve their own place because they are not the same as standard cultivated blueberries. They are smaller, more intensely pigmented, and typically contain higher levels of anthocyanins. The reason that matters is simple. The same compounds that help protect neurons in the brain may also help protect the neurons in the retina. Photoreceptors are delicate, metabolically active cells, and they are affected by oxidative stress just like other high-demand tissues. Wild blueberries may also help support the integrity of the tiny capillaries that nourish the retina. When those vessels function better, nutrient delivery improves. Over time, that matters. Many people notice that their eyes feel tired by evening, especially after reading or screen use. Not necessarily blurry, just strained. That kind of visual fatigue can reflect the cumulative burden of oxidative stress and prolonged use. Anthocyanin-rich fruits appear to help in this area. A cup of wild blueberries, fresh or frozen, is a simple way to incorporate them. Frozen wild blueberries are often the easiest option and retain much of their nutritional value. Again, consistency is what counts. Now we move into the last 3 fruits, where the connection to age-related eye protection becomes even more interesting. Fruit number 5 is red dragon fruit, not the white-fleshed version, the red one. Red dragon fruit contains betalains, the pigments responsible for its vibrant color. These compounds have antioxidant activity and may help reduce some of the damage linked to glycation and inflammation. This is important because glycation is one of the silent processes involved in lens aging. Over time, sugar-related damage can change the structure of proteins in the eye. That contributes to clouding and stiffness. Red dragon fruit also provides vitamin C and smaller amounts of supportive minerals such as zinc. Zinc matters because it plays a role in moving vitamin A through the body and into retinal processes where it is needed for vision. One of the strengths of red dragon fruit is that it doesn't offer just one compound. It offers a cluster of supportive nutrients that work together: antioxidants, pigments, vitamin C, and supportive trace nutrients. Half of a medium red dragon fruit is a reasonable serving. If fresh is unavailable, frozen can work. Just make sure it is the red-fleshed variety if eye-supportive pigments are part of the goal. Fruit number 6 is goji berries. Goji berries have a long history of being associated with eye health, and in this case traditional use is matched by modern interest. One reason is their zeaxanthin content. Gram for gram, goji berries are among the richer food sources of zeaxanthin, one of the core pigments in the macula. That matters because macular pigment density is one of the ways researchers think about visual protection, especially as it relates to age-related macular stress. Goji berries also contain unique plant compounds that have been studied for protective effects in aging eye tissue. Some research has linked regular intake with improvements in markers related to macular protection. What makes goji berries especially useful is that they are easy to eat in small portions. A small handful in the evening, added to nuts, stirred into warm tea, or eaten on their own, can be enough to make them realistic for long-term consistency. The problem is not usually complexity. The problem is forgetting. Because the serving is small and the food is unfamiliar to some people, it is easy for the habit to disappear after a week or two. So if you use them, make them visible. Keep them where you will actually remember them. Anyone on blood-thinning medication should speak with a healthcare professional before using goji berries regularly, especially in larger amounts. And now to the final fruit, the one most people underestimate. Papaya. Papaya may be one of the most overlooked fruits for aging eyes, and that is largely because people think of it as a digestive fruit first. But from a vision support standpoint, papaya is unusually valuable because it delivers several important compounds at once. It contains vitamin C, it contains zeaxanthin, and most importantly, it provides beta-cryptoxanthin, a carotenoid the body can convert into vitamin A. Vitamin A is essential for the retina, especially for the rod cells involved in low-light vision. If vitamin A status is inadequate, the regeneration of visual pigments becomes less efficient. That can affect night vision and adaptation to darkness. Severe deficiency is uncommon in developed countries, but mild insufficiency is not always obvious, especially in older adults with reduced absorption or less varied diets. Papaya stands out because it provides meaningful amounts of beta-cryptoxanthin in a fruit that is relatively easy to eat. Fully ripe papaya is especially useful since its orange pigments are more developed. A practical routine is to eat half a papaya 2 or 3 times per week, ideally with a little healthy fat nearby in the meal to support carotenoid absorption. If fresh papaya is difficult to find, frozen chunks can be a convenient substitute. The mistake people make is treating papaya as something exotic or occasional, like a vacation fruit, but when it is used regularly, it becomes a very different kind of food, a functional support for the eyes. Now, before finishing, here is something practical you can take with you to your next eye appointment. Instead of only asking, "Are my eyes okay?" consider asking more focused questions. Ask whether there are any early signs of macular stress or lens changes that might be relevant to your diet. Ask whether your overall nutrition could be influencing your eye health trajectory. Ask whether the nutrients most associated with retinal support, such as lutein, zeaxanthin, zinc, or vitamin A, are worth discussing in the context of your age, symptoms, and diet pattern. Ask whether any medications you take could affect fat-soluble vitamin absorption, and if you have specific concerns about macular degeneration or cataracts. Ask what role lifestyle and nutrition may still play alongside routine monitoring. These questions matter because many people do not realize there is anything to ask until decline is already more advanced. Now let's make all of this easier. You do not need to start eating all 7 fruits tomorrow. You do not need a perfect diet. And you do not need to turn this into a complicated project. What you do need is a repeatable habit. Here is a simple 30-day approach. Choose 2 fruits from this list that you do not currently eat often. Just 2. Then for the next 30 days, include at least one of them in your evening routine. Make it visible, easy, and repeatable. At the start, take note of 2 things. First, how easy is it to read in normal room lighting? Second, how do your eyes feel after a full evening of reading, television, or screen use? Then check again after 30 days. The first changes people often notice are not dramatic. They may simply feel that their eyes are less tired. Reading may feel a bit more comfortable. Contrast may seem a little easier. Those are subtle signals, but they matter. Because small improvements are often how long-term support begins. There is a difference between waiting for a problem to become serious and giving the body what it needs before that problem deepens. For the eyes, that difference is especially important. Many common forms of age-related vision loss do not begin the day they are diagnosed. They begin years earlier, quietly. By the time they are obvious, the process has often been underway for a long time. That is why earlier support matters, and that is also why this topic deserves more attention than it usually gets. You are not powerless when it comes to how your eyes age. You may not control everything. Genetics matter. Medical conditions matter. Regular exams matter. But nutrition matters too. And unlike many risk factors, nutrition is something you can begin changing with your very next meal. So remember the list. Kiwi for vitamin C, lutein and zeaxanthin. Watermelon for lycopene and lens support. Black currants for concentrated anthocyanins and low light function. Wild blueberries for retinal protection and visual fatigue. Red dragon fruit for betalains and antioxidant support. Goji berries for zeaxanthin and macular defense. Papaya for beta-cryptoxanthin, vitamin A support, and one of the most underrated combinations in this entire conversation. You do not need to use all 7. You just need to start. And the best time to start is not when reading becomes frustrating, when faces blur more easily, or when driving at night becomes something you try to avoid. The best time is while there is still more to protect. Because every day, what you eat is part of the conversation happening inside your body. The question is whether that conversation is helping your eyes hold the line or leaving them with less protection than they need. Choose 2 fruits. Start tonight if you can. Stay consistent for 30 days. Then, pay attention. Sometimes the most meaningful changes in health do not arrive with drama. They arrive quietly, through habits repeated often enough to matter. And vision is one of the places where that quiet consistency can make a real difference.